R.I.P. my friend.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Zack Snyder's Justice League is finally here, and I'm here to give you guys my spoiler-free review. So if you guys didn't know, back in 2017 there was a theatrical cut of the Justice League that was released, but back at Warner Brothers there were a lot of problems behind the scenes. The biggest problem behind the scenes was that Zack Snyder finished about 80% of the movie and then he had a family tragedy, so he decided to step away from the film. Warner Brothers then decided to hire Joss Whedon to finish off the film, but instead of just finishing the film, they decided to only use parts of the beginning and then they reshot almost all of the film. Their budget ended up going over $300 million, which made it practically impossible to make back any money. The theatrical cut of the Justice League is considered to be one of the biggest flops in movie or superhero history, but the Snyder Cut is 10 times better. So without wasting any more time, I want to get started with the good. Overall, I thought the score was pretty good in this movie other than that one specific Flash intro scene. I thought they did a great job of balancing it. It also went really well with the pacing, which was another super great thing about this movie was the pacing when it was split up into 6 different parts. I like the way that they did that. I thought it did run a lot longer than it needed to, but I'll be going into that later in the bad section of this video. But I thought that they did a great job in terms of pacing all of the heroes, kind of showing each hero's introduction. And it was kind of weird at first because we already saw a lot of parts of the beginning of the movie. So it did a great job of kind of collecting the pacing and kind of everything was moving forward at once. And I thought that was one of the greatest things about this movie was just the pacing overall felt supernatural. Nothing really felt forced, but there was a lot of other stuff that kind of went into that. And one of the biggest things is, like I said before, the splitting of the heroes on screen. I think they did a great job of splitting up hero time, because if you think about it, we have to watch this movie like we were watching it back in 2017 before all the Aquaman movie, before Wonder Woman 1984. We have to think of it like we had never seen these movies before, which I honestly don't have a problem with. It was just difficult to kind of want to sit there and sit through Aquaman and him getting introduced to Bruce Wayne again, because first of all, we already saw that in the original Justice League movie, but we also know all of Aquaman's history. I liked what they did with Wonder Woman. Actually, they did a great job of her introduction, showing what she had been up to, which again wasn't much. We already knew that in Wonder Woman 1984. She's kind of hiding away from the world, which I thought that was pretty cool. The way that she gets reintroduced into the world in this cut, not the theatrical cut. They did a great job in this movie with that. They also did a great job with Batman. They fleshed out his story just a little bit more than they did in Batman vs Superman, which is kind of weird because there's a lot more heroes in this movie. But personally, I feel like I learned a lot about Batman and his backstory, because I feel like it touched a lot on Batman's character himself, because he's the one that's assembling this team. Speaking on the heroes, the main thing about this movie that I want to talk about, that was probably the best thing that's happened in this movie, was Cyborg's backstory. It was so fleshed out, it was so emotional, it just did the character justice, I think, and I think it did it in the most perfect way possible. They started off by telling the basic story of Cyborg, then they kind of showed us his backstory. They didn't just say it to us, they showed us exactly what happened. Throughout the entirety of this movie, his character just evolved so much, more than you would ever expect. So when you're going into this movie, just know that Cyborg, it might actually be considered the main character. I mean, to me, it felt like he had the most compelling character arc out of anyone this entire movie, even Batman, even Superman. Yes, Superman's story came to a close at the end of the movie, just like we all expect, but Cyborg's character was built in this movie. It felt like he had a peak in this movie, and it felt like it was ended properly. I'm super glad to see that Snyder got to do this vision, because I definitely like the way that he set up the Flash and Cyborg's character arc a lot more. So keeping with the track of just the heroes themselves, I liked how the heroes fed off of each other in battle. I think another thing that connects them with each other, which is another thing I want to talk about, was what they've lost or what they want from killing Steppenwolf or defeating Steppenwolf. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing Steppenwolf wrong. I don't know how to say it, but it's whatever. I'm just gonna keep saying Steppenwolf. Another really cool thing that I liked in this movie was Jared Leto's Joker. I'm not gonna go into exactly when you see him in this movie because I don't want to spoil anything, but whenever you do see him, personally I felt like it was a little bit too forced the way that we got to meet his Joker. But when we got to meet his Joker, when he had the interaction with Batman, I really liked what we saw. It was really great to see another variation of Joker. I hope we get an Ayer cut, because apparently he shot a lot more of Joker, so I think that'd be really cool to see. And then the final thing I want to talk about in the good was the villain's motive. Steppenwolf's motive in this movie actually makes sense. Unlike the original Justice League movie, he was just saying like for mother, like no one really understood what that meant. This movie, he's trying to pay his debt off to Darkseid. I thought it was really cool the way they introduced Steppenwolf, the way they talked about his backstory. They explained everything really, really well, and obviously that has to do with the runtime of the movie, which I'll get into later in this video. But overall, you just see the character development of Steppenwolf throughout this entire movie. So now I'm going to be talking about the bad of the movie. Just a forewarning, there's not much in this section of the video. There were a few things that really, really did stand out to me. Like, one of them was the cartoonist CGI, especially towards the ending of the movie when you can tell time was getting into a little bit of a crunch. So you could start to definitely tell. The Flash's comedy was also something that I felt was really, really misplaced in this movie. I feel like the movie had such a dark tone throughout most of it that the Flash's comedy, yes, he tried to lighten the mood, but it didn't feel right for 90% of the situations. I'm starting to like this new Flash a lot more. I forgot the actor's name, but I'm starting to like his Flash a little bit more. It's just I still don't prefer him over Grant Gustin. It's not personal, I just don't like the character of the Flash in the DCEU right now. So talking about the epilogue, I wanted to kind of get into why I thought it was a little bit too stretched out. I thought the entire movie was a little bit too long, but the epilogue, I think the beginning of the epilogue did a great job in solidifying and kind of closing off everyone's story, telling us what they were up to after the final battle. I don't want to tell you specifically what happened after that because that would be spoiling the movie for you, but it just felt like it was a little bit too dragged on for my liking. And talking about dragging stuff on, I thought the movie was dragged on a lot. I felt like overall the movie could have been 20 to 30 minutes shorter. The movie would have been the exact same, telling the exact Cyborg story, the exact same Flash story, Wonder Woman, Batman, all the characters would have been the same if the movie was 40 minutes shorter. Obviously, it's not something you can change anymore. It's not something you can really look past because when I go to rewatch this movie, it's going to be 4 hours. I don't have a choice. But I think overall, it was just a little bit too dragged on for my liking. So my final take for this movie is that Zack Snyder's Justice League is a film for the director and the fans that believed in his vision. This movie had a mature approach to its superhero drama, it had more depth to its antagonists, and it had a much improved action from the initial theatrical cut. Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League saves this movie from the trash can of history that it was previously placed in. Not every addition to this movie actually felt necessary, and a lot of the VFX stick out as unpolished, but all of that aside, it's hard to not appreciate how much more enjoyable this version of the Justice League is than the initial theatrical cut. Before I give my final rating, I want to thank all of the fans for making this possible and believing in Zack Snyder's vision for the Justice League. I really hope that he gets to fulfill the other movies that he wanted to make in this universe, and with that, I'm going to be giving this movie an 8.5 out of 10. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like rating down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and turn notifications on so you don't miss whenever I drop a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.